why should anyone study the English spoken in Utah? I mean, aren't there more interesting dialects in the country? Well, I'll tell you why I think it's interesting. But that may be a question to ask all the other researchers who have worked on Utah English as well. As far as I'm concerned, the first reason we need to study Utah dialect is because of what we talked about already in episode 2. Because it's there. It really exists. In that episode, we saw that people actually can distinguish Utahns and non-Utahns, so there is such a thing as a Utah accent. But now we need to figure out what it's made up of. The second reason is there is a lot of bad information out there about how Utahns speak. Incorrect information. And that comes mainly from two sources. The first are people's random observations about what their cousin from Fillmore, Utah says, or what they heard the gas station attendant say in St. George when they were traveling through the state on I-15. Many of these anecdotal observations, along with handed-down stereotypes, get shared and discussed in online groups and tweets, which ends up reinforcing stereotypes that may or may not be true. The second source of misinformation about Utah dialect comes from, I'm sorry to say, journalists. I'm talking about the ones who throw together articles with titles like 10 words only Utahns use, or 10 more phrases that signal that you're most likely from Utah. These reports would be great, except they are usually just published versions of the author's own anecdotal observations or mere repetition of common stereotypes. More often than not, these articles aren't based on anything resembling solid research. The third reason for studying the speech of Utahns is that there are a bunch of questions that we need to answer. Is a supposed characteristic of Utah dialect actually part of Utah dialect? And if so, who uses that characteristic the most or the least? Is it younger people? People from, say, southern Utah? Is it men? Or more educated Utahns? Or is it maybe members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? Third, is the characteristic actually unique to Utah? And if not, where else do you find it in the country? Where did the characteristic come from? The early migration of immigrants to this state included people from all over the U.S., Scandinavia, and the British Isles, among other places. What characteristics may have originated in those regions? So, how have researchers gone about studying the Utah dialect so far? Well, this group of BYU professors and students went door to door in Utah County asking residents to complete a survey in 2005. One source of historical data on Utah English are old recordings of speakers. Now, Joey Stanley, a linguist at Brigham Young University, is currently going through hundreds of hours of interviews that high school students in Heber City made of their grandparents in the mid to late 20th century. David Bowie, a professor at the University of Alaska, has examined speeches given by leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in their conferences dating back to the 1930s. That included Utahns born in 1897. Many others, me included, have conducted a variety of different experiments and surveys. Surveys of American English are another source to look at since they include respondents from Utah. Now here's an example taken from the Dialects of American English survey that, among other things, asked people what this creature is called. Now there are lots of names for these, including pillbugs, roly-polies, potato bugs. In Britain they're called woodlouses. But in the U.S., when you map the responses, this is what you get for potato bug. Utah is most definitely a potato bug area. Now we could consider this finding an interesting piece of dialect trivia, but linguistic evidence often gives insight into other non-linguistic things. For example, look at where potato bug is the word of choice in the eastern half of the country. It's found on the southern shores of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. That may seem unrelated until you plot some places there that have connections with Utah. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints began in Palmyra, New York, and was officially founded in Fayette, New York, both of which fall into potato bug areas in upstate New York. Religious intolerance drove members of the church from upstate New York to Kirtland, Ohio, beginning in 1831, and northern Ohio is another potato bug area. Eventually, church members immigrated to Utah. The fact that the vast majority of the United States uses another term such as roly-poly or pill bug suggests that the less common term potato bug, which is used in Utah, may have originated along the southern shores of Lake Erie and Ontario. So the distribution of potato bug in the United States serves as very plausible evidence that potato bug as a Utahism is traceable to 19th century immigration patterns. We'll see more of these kinds of interesting facts in upcoming episodes.